Squadron after squadron out of Tuskegee, flying P-40s first, tough little planes, then striking with Thunderbolts, P-47s, then riding the Mustangs, P-51s. You can't make a fighter squadron out of concrete and aluminum and a can of paint. It takes men. A chemistry student, a welder, a shoe salesman must learn how to fly. A group of average Americans must become a team of fighting men.
I was a signal guy for 20 years in the Army, Fort Campbell. I was there for 20 years, most of my time at Fort Campbell, and I retired in 2005, yeah. So now I was a communications guy. I helped with telephones and eventually internet and stuff like that, so yeah. I went to an event when I was at Murray State University getting my master's degree, and I met a Tuskegee Airman there, an actual one, and that was really cool. It really changed my life and made me start looking at things, my priorities in life, a little differently. I started thinking, hey, you know, these guys made a huge sacrifice, even more than what I did in the military for 20 years. And I said, these guys need to be remembered because we're losing our World War II vets, and they're almost all gone now. There's only a few of them left. And this guy kind of touched my heart on the things that he went through. And it made me think, gosh, I got it great. You know, I don't have to deal with all that. You know, I can walk out in the street and not have people try to kill me or treat me bad or throw stuff at me or break my windows in my house. And it was just awful, some of the things he told me. And I said, well, you know what, I thank you. And he's like, for what? I said, because if you didn't do what you did, I couldn't do what I do. And I really appreciate that. And he was like, he thought that was pretty cool. It was kind of a teary-eyed moment, but yeah.
Here above the warm, familiar hills of Alabama, these Americans are learning to fly in those tight combat formations they'll use someday to hunt down the German and Jap above his own cities.
I like the personal stories. I really do. I like getting to know the Tuskegee Airmen, their girlfriends, their fiancés, the things, their lifestyle, how they were living. And that prompts me to decide which airplane I'm gonna build. And I do it based on the pilot. So like this one is Colonel Benjamin Davis Jr., Benjamin O. Davis Jr., became the first black Air Force general. I picked him because I thought he was strong in a time when you needed to. He went through West Point, and he was the only one that graduated but was black. So he went through a whole lot of stuff. He couldn't sit at the table with all the rest of the guys and eat and stuff. It was like really weird. So I thought, how strong could you had to be in order to become a leader on top of that after you've been through all that? I thought I admired him. I admired his strength, his courage. I liked Iowa, but his name was actually Robert Williams. There was a movie called Tuskegee Airmen, and they called him Iowa. He was played by Lawrence Fishburne. I thought he was really inspiring. You know, how he kept going no matter how bad it was, or how horrible. Everybody told him he couldn't. That was like his fuel to make him go even further. Because it's like, if you tell me I can't do something, well, I'm gonna show you. And I thought that was interesting. And I did his plane, Duchess Arlene, and that was his fiance. And I thought the whole thing was very romantic and powerful. Once you get everything together, you can see the pictures and how it's supposed to look, but it takes a lot of practice and time to get it to look like that. That was the hard part. Yeah, believe it or not, I used to play a game called Warhammer. And there were some guys that taught me how to paint miniature figures. They were like little warriors and barbarians, like Dungeons and Dragons kind of stuff. And there were some guys that helped me. And I actually showed people how to play the game and stuff. And so they sent me to Games Workshop in Baltimore, Maryland, and some other places that I've done in Atlanta, shows, games days and stuff. And they gave me the techniques on how to make terrain and how to paint figures and all this stuff. How to foam and paint miniature models of dragons and guys in armor and highlight and details and all that stuff. And then I'd take them out to public, and you know, some people bought my armies on eBay and stuff like that because I started getting better after that. 20 years in the military, you learn how to pay attention to details. So. But yeah, the military had a lot to do with how come I do that. So, yeah. And I was in 2 combats tours, so you have to pay attention to all little details.
routine morning patrol. They're good planes, wonderful planes, and their pilots are good too.
My grandfather was in the military, his grandfather's in, so my son is in the military now. So it's just something that I thought I should do, kind of felt obligated to do, to give back. Sort of like why I'm doing this, I give back because I'm blessed to have all these things that I have. They're fighting Hitler on one front, and they were also fighting racism here at home. And they wanted the same thing that I was telling you about. They wanted something better for their kids and their kids' kids. They wanted to make it better for people like me. That's why I thanked them, you know, because they succeeded. They won both wars. They obviously beat Hitler, and they also made things a lot better. Changed a lot of people's minds on how African Americans were, or how they should be, or anything. All the stereotypes that go along with it. They trying to change those, and they succeeded. I couldn't have what I have right now. What you see before you is not because I did anything miraculous. I'm just trying to give back for all the things that were done for me. I'm not saying, I'm not naive to think it's perfect. And we still have work to do, but it's a lot better than what it was for these guys. So I think it's important to do that. Something bigger than myself. Yeah, I think is important.
Under the feet of these men, a new road is being beaten out. Broad enough now for thousands and 10,000s. A good road for our country. These men remember that, marching or flying. They